Welcome to week 9 of Sailor Jerry Saturday podcast.
What up,
with
y'all?
My boys, co-host Nikko Velazquez.
Hey.
And Keith, he's always frozen on my screen, Kwasigroch. All right. And I am Jacob Santino Carocci. Let's get this rolling.
Let's do it.
All right. So as always, what we're going to do is we're going to review the week 8 outcomes, go over the standings, and then we'll go to the power rankings and review week 9 with predictions. So currently, though, we'll start off with the standings. Right now, we have Billy in first place. Then comes Casey. Then Nico, he's in third. Keith is in fourth. Jimmy, J-Mo is in fifth. Trickus is in sixth, and that would round out your playoffs if it were to stop right now. And then after that, it's myself, Grono, Dorf, Basla, Trim, and Quinto round out the bottom 3 again this week. So there's some changes there in the middle and the top, and we're gonna review everything. We're gonna go over everything tonight. So that is the standings through week 8. What do we got? 4 weeks left, boys?
4 weeks left.
And then the playoffs. So this is crunch time. You know, usually 7 wins. You get 7 wins, you have a chance of making the playoffs. And I feel like 7 wins might be a few people with 7 wins this year. So you got to get more points, boys. Got to get those points up. AKA, I need to get my points up. Anyways. Keith, you want to get us started?
Sure. All right. So the first matchup review of last week is between the Juices Loose and Scary Terry Sharknado, 2 teams that have been previously on the up and up there. This past weekend, Juices Loose got the dub, as I predicted. And let's go through the matchup here. Aaron Rodgers for Juices Loose outperformed Stafford by 4 points. So Stafford did his thing. It wasn't that much of a disparity there. Aaron Rodgers is playing very well as of late. It seems as though it really doesn't matter who he's throwing to. Even his running backs, they're killing it over there. Wide receivers pretty much a wash on both sides. Robinson the second and Godwin kind of both had mediocre days, and so did Robert Woods. And Stephon Diggs kind of did his thing, but because Woods only put up 5 points, it didn't do very much for Dorf there. Then you get to the running backs, Freeman in Denver and Saquon versus Hyde and Tyler Johnson. And this is really where the game was won and lost this past weekend. Saquon did his thing, as he's going to, barring injury. I mean, he's just an animal. Freeman, he's good for 40 yards and a touchdown. This is exactly what he did. Hyde, he kind of just got scripted out, and he's going to get scripted out of that those games in Houston anyways. They just passed the ball a shit ton. And Dorf ultimately played you can't really blame him. He bit into the that Tyler Johnson hype.
Yeah.
And he played him ahead of Tevin. And then we all watched Tyler Johnson not even start the game. And then Tevin Coleman rushed for 100-plus yards and 3 touchdowns.
I think he had 4 touchdowns.
I think he
4.
caught one as well.
Yeah, he caught one. Oh, he rushed for 3. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so that's 4 total touchdowns, 100-plus yards on your bench. It just hurts. That hurts a lot.
That sucks.
That's the WTF move, right?
Yeah, that was Nico last week with Marvin Jones Jr.
Yep. The other thing is Chark had a day for Dorf on his bench. If Dorf plays Woods and Coleman, he squeaks out this win, but obviously he didn't.
He had Chark on the bench.
He had Chark on his bench too. Yep.
Dorf. That's literally the name of your team, dude.
Yeah, I know.
You're not gonna play him.
I know.
It's a tough obligation to keep with.
Jeez, man. You got to change your name now.
Yeah, for real. I mean, it's hard. And then defenses. Somehow, some way, Buffalo got scraped when everybody I was really high on Buffalo this weekend. And Philly came out and did their thing, leaving Dorf with only 6 points. Jacksonville gave Philly their 17.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, obviously, that hurts the overall team morale for Dorf. And that is a summation why Billy came out with a W this weekend. Good for you, Billy.
And like you said, you did predict that one.
Yes, I did.
So you're 1-0 so far this week.
Yep.
All right.
All right. I had the next one here. I had Casey versus Joe, Blue Jesus Chicken Wing versus Sean Archer. I also did predict this one correct. I took Blue Jesus Chicken Wing in this one. Quarterback battle. I know I had – actually, did he have – he had Teddy Bridgewater in initially, and he looks like he put in David Carr, which was obviously a logical move because Drew Brees was projected to come on in and take over in New Orleans. So he went with Carr, and it worked out for him. Carr had a day, 3 passing TDs, 285 yards in that loss, unfortunately, to Houston. And as sort of what I was hinting at last week, Tom Brady sort of, again, nowhere near just a game manager, but again, he has such a awesome defense and a great running game that it doesn't have to fall all on his shoulders anymore. But he's still putting up 2 passing TDs. But I think, David Carr ultimately outperformed on that too, between those two. The 2 wide receivers going up here, D-Hop and Mike Evans. As I've said before, for Casey's team, he has a really good tandem of wide receivers that rivals, I think, probably Keith's tandem of wide receivers. Solid. Hopkins and Evans going up against Williams and Roddy Anderson for New York Jets, which, I mean, that's an easy one there. So the wide receivers really got a lot of points for him. And that's where I see the biggest discrepancy. If you look at the combination of points here, going against the wide receivers, that's where that battle was really won for Casey. Running backs, Devontae Freeman, he, as you had mentioned, he's good for a rushing TD, but he's also targeted a lot, and especially in this PPR league, that's where he's getting a lot of his points. James White had a decent day, but if you watched that, New England game against Cleveland, it was a Sony Michel show. That guy was getting every single thing going on there. At least I saw from my point of view that he was getting a lot of the touches out of the backfield. Tight ends. As I had mentioned with this one, Travis Kelce was definitely getting the nod, and he had a day. Standard day. I think, Jake, you sort of mentioned it last week that Kelce's not going to have that 1,300-yard performance this year. He's not really projected near to get that, but he's still going to get you still going to get you a reception TD. He's still going to get you 4 to 7 catches a game, and that's exactly what he did. He's getting
70
14
yards.
Yeah. So you're going to be happy with that. Flexes were pretty dead even. Brown from Buffalo going up against Jacobs for Oakland, which was surprising. I was expecting Jacobs to, even though he was questionable with a shoulder injury going into this game, I figured he would have had a little bit better of a day, at least hit pay dirt, but only 66 rushing yards and 2 catches. The kickers, Myers, 14 points to Casey's 6 with Butler, and then the defenses were ultimately pretty even on this. I thought Pittsburgh's defense was just going to completely shut down Miami, making a statement coming off a bye Monday night game. And as we saw, it was pretty scary for that first quarter or two for Pittsburgh. They were down 14-0 for the majority, and I had James Conner, so I was sweating bullets a little bit. But like I said, pretty even on the defense. Ultimately, as I had mentioned, I think that the big discrepancy, but Mike Evans getting 36.2 points, and then Anderson for Joe getting 6.87 points. I mean that 30-point difference.
That's huge.
Was big, and ultimately it led to the victory for Casey, 135.25 to Joe's 127.69.
Jeez, it's still close even with that.
Yeah. Close game. Okay, I believe I have the next matchup here,
Mhm.
and that is between Seabass and Balls Deep All-Stars. This was another close one. Tail of the tape here, Seabass 121 to Balls Deep 102. Jacoby Brissett, only 11 points after a monster week beforehand. You're kind of comfortable playing with him after seeing what he did the week before, but he ran into Denver. Phillip really didn't outperform that much either, though. Only 3 more points in Chicago.
Yeah.
Which it's just never fun playing in Chicago for anybody, despite how the defense is playing. And they showed up this week. They held Phillip to, 17 points, despite just a terrible
18,
loss.
and they won.
Yeah, terrible loss. Where we start to see Nikko pull away here is at the wider receiver position. Julian Edelman had a day. There's been a lot of wide receiver shakeups as far as the Patriots offense goes. A lot of people in and out, and Tom is still Tom, and he peppers people. But the one person who's benefiting the most out of this is Julian Edelman. He's just eating right now as far as that goes offensively. 24 points from Julian to only 5 from T.Y. Hilton for Grono. Odell had 8, and Kenny Stills had 4. I think I remember talking about Kenny Stills last week. He's one of those dudes where he catches a couple bombs and all of a sudden he's having a great week for you, but he can also get scripted right out of a game, and that's exactly what happened. He just didn't have the targets or the yards for Grono this week. Get to the running backs, and that's been Grono's bread and butter all year. Dalvin and Leonard. That's a wonderful combo. But Chris Carson and James Conner is also a very good running back combo, and I think Grono only squeaked out a 1-point advantage with that, which is perfect for Nikko. And
it's a win for Nikko.
Yeah, that's definitely
a point.
Yeah, it's definitely a win there. Eric Ebron versus Gerald Everett, tight end versus wash. It was 1 point in favor of Nikko. And the flex position, Nikko actually lost by 5 points. Todd put up 10, and Marvin Jones Jr. just didn't have that monster day like he had in the past there.
Yep.
Then when we see the real separation here is, one, Grono's kicker Fairbairn actually put up 7 more points than Carolina. Carolina got absolutely slapped by San Francisco.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing. And Nikko has the luxury every week of firing up the New England Patriots D. Best D in the league, turnovers machines.
We'll see this week, though.
We'll see this week. Baltimore is going to be their
big
first true test, I think. But, Baker Mayfield literally pitched the ball to a Patriots defensive lineman.
I saw that.
It was hilarious. I was texting Keith during the game.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's raining, and there's probably going to be 5 more turnovers. And that's when they had the 3 plays in a row where they threw 2 interceptions and a fumble. Literally, they're 3 plays in a row. They threw a pick. Jeez. The next play, fumbled. The next time they got it, he threw a pick. And I was dying laughing.
Absolutely silly. I like Baker as a person, but I don't know if I like Baker as a quarterback very much at this point. And I guess we'll just see. But the New England D outscored the Indianapolis defense for Grono 23-9. So you couple the defensive advantage with Julian Edelman, it looks like the Patriots offense and defense won it for Seabass this week.
Yep. You also predicted that as well. So
yep.
Another 2-0 week, Keith. You're on
2-0. What's up?
On a roll, man.
If only my team would win, that would be awesome.
Hey, you can't have everything. Now, I actually have the next two matchups, just the way the standings go this week. So the first matchup is Jimmy, Kiss the Baby, against Keith, Crash Rub Route. So this was a good matchup, and it was pretty much one person that was the factor for Jimmy. And I predicted Keith to win, unfortunately, he did not come through for me. But as far as the matchup goes, Jimmy and Keith. Keith actually played Allen from Buffalo. Didn't you have somebody else? Oh yeah, Matt Ryan.
I couldn't play him.
Was hurt. That's right. So you had to put Allen in there. But either way, I picked Wilson, and it was actually a wash. If anything, Allen actually scored a point higher than Wilson this week. So that was a wash. I remember picking Keith's wide receivers, Michael Thomas and Metcalf, and they actually did combine outperform Jimmy's wide receivers, Cooper Kupp and Davis. The big question mark was C. Davis. We didn't know what was going to happen. They ended up winning the game, but he only had 2 catches for 9 yards. Mm-hmm. So who knows, with that offense, what's going to happen. But Cooper Kupp had a huge day, 220 yards, touchdown, 7 catches. And then Michael Thomas literally did what he always does, around 10 catches and around 100 yards. And he actually added a TD this game, so that was even extra for Keith. But Metcalf had 2 touchdowns though. He only had 13 yards, but he scored twice, so that was big for Keith in that sense compared to Davis. And then for the running backs, this is really where the difference came, and that was Jimmy had Aaron Jones.
Yep.
And if you guys are watching that game against Kansas City played well without Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
And they were in it the whole time, but Aaron Jones had 2 reception touchdowns, 7 catches, 159 reception yards, and he's also that's as a running back. So that just goes to show you what kind of day that he had. He had 36.3 points for Jimmy, and that was really the big difference because Sony Michel only had 7. He got the ball a lot, but he didn't score, and Austin Eckler had a touchdown that pretty much saved his points for the week. He had 9.5, and then Le'Veon Bell was, if you're watching that game, the Jets are just brutal sometimes to watch. So he only had 6 points, which is bad for Le'Veon. And then I remember Keith giving me crap because I told him Evan Ingram was gonna do better than Hunter Henry, and I was correct.
Yeah, I know.
They pretty much had similar day. They both had 4 catches, 40 around 40 yards, but Ingram scored and Hunter Henry didn't against that Chicago defense. So Jimmy had that notch there. And then as far as the flex goes, I remember picking Juju against Miami over Derrick Henry, and Juju actually had a good day. 103 yards, 5 catches, touchdown, so he had a big day. So that's normal Juju stuff. You just don't know what you're going to get with him every week. I think this week was a one-off because they played Miami. And then wash for the kickers and a wash for the defense. So Jimmy won 132-121, but it was really all because Aaron Jones had a huge day and scored 36.3 points. Even if he scores 20 points, which is still above his projection, it's still a great day. Keith would have won. So the fact that Aaron Jones went off won it for Kiss the Baby.
Yeah, it just as you can imagine, I watched every minute of that game because and Aaron Rodgers is such a smart quarterback. He knew he had a advantage with whoever is guarding Aaron Jones out of the backfield, and he just nailed him on just beautiful wheel routes, and he was just gone.
And the thing is, also that screen too. He's one of those players that if you put him in space with the speed that he has, and they block well. They have really good, large wide receivers that can just block well. I mean, he was gone. He was off to the races, and no one was catching him.
Nope.
He could have had more points. That's the crazy part, because one of the plays he was about to score, but he stepped out of bounds on another long pass. The same exact play that he ended up scoring on later in the game. He could have had another one earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have even been even worse. He just found the weak link and just destroyed him.
Yeah. Either way, it was hurtful for me to watch.
Yeah.
That is the worst, man. There's nothing you can do about it. You just watch it and you're hoping, come on, just stay out of the end zone, and then you just rip like a 70-yard run.
And there was a point there at halftime where I went on Reddit to look at the fantasy football news, and Aaron Jones was listed as questionable for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the second half happened.
A
and he
little
caught-
hope, and then
Yeah.
nope. Then he scored an 80-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah. So
Just ripped your heart out.
It's fantasy for you sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of ups and downs, but. And then for the next matchup, I had Trickus against Trim, so Friar Douglas against Carpet Munchers. And I did predict this one right. Trim was battling injuries, and two of his main players, Kamara and Patrick Mahomes, are hurt. I mean, Minshew actually had a good day, but still not having them in your lineup, and then with buys and stuff, it's tough to keep up, especially when you're playing against healthy teams, and when you're playing against Christian McCaffrey, it's always tough. So Trickus won 125 to 114. And as far as I remember I picked Minshew just because Kirk Cousins already played Thursday night. He only had 14 points, so that was figured that was an easy one to pick. But Minshew actually did really good for Jacksonville. He had 32.75, so he outperformed Trickus there. And then after that, I just pretty much picked Trickus the whole way down the lineup, and that's pretty much how it ended up, because Tyler Lockett outperformed Boyd, and Julio Jones outperformed Jeffrey for the wide receiver slots. And Julio Jones had a huge day, 10 catches, 152 yards. No TD, though. He always does that. He doesn't score a lot of TDs, but he gets, 1,400 yards every year? Mm-hmm. It's insane. And then Christian McCaffrey did his usual thing, 117 rushing yards, a touchdown, 4 catches. He's just a stud. I'm really surprised how the second week he only had 6.7 points, because every other week I feel like he has 30 to 40 points. But he outperformed Montgomery, who actually did really well. He had 135 rushing yards. He touched the ball a lot for you guys, didn't he, Nico?
Finally.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had rushed the game before.
27 touches and handoffs.
Yeah, they had only rushed the ball 7 times a week prior, so they were coming out with the emphasis on the run, and they finally did it. But when they got in the red zone 5 times, Montgomery didn't touch the ball once. So there you go.
Doesn't make any sense.
That's Nagy for you.
Nagy rushed 7 times, then rushed 30 times. maybe find something in the middle. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was frustrating, man. Montgomery didn't get a single touch when they were like on the goal line. Like, you'd think, just give it to him, let him run him in 5 times. He didn't touch it once.
That's crazy. Well, that doesn't help. That didn't help you guys. So,
Mm-mm.
and Marlon Mack outperformed Ronald Jones second, and then Kittle against Graham. Kittle outperformed Graham, and then Edmonds and Larry Fitz. They both really didn't have a good day at all. Edmonds was hurt, and Larry Fitz only had 2 catches for 8 yards.
Enter Kenyon Drake.
And then kicker Trim outperformed by 4 points, and then defenses were washed. So it was really an off week for Trim because of injuries and buys, and it kind of hurt him a lot, because Trickus pretty much had his full squad going in. Besides, he had his full squad. So full healthy squad, and that's what happened. So 125 to 114, and I had Trickus winning, so I did get that one correct. I was 1 for 1 this week.
All right, and then I'll take this last one here. So I also went 1-1 this week because I got this matchup incorrect. I originally knee-jerk was going to go with J-Fed, but then I chose the opposite and went with Don Juan. And even though Quinto had a better day, he scored over 100 points, 116.39, which is reasonable. You had a very good day, Jake. 136.46. Was that the top score in that week or no?
No, Billy had 137. I had 136.
So you had a great week. And you had Westbrook too, who didn't even he got taken out. So if you would have had another wide receiver, you possibly could have been top scorer.
And I actually sat Mixon because I fell for that Detroit hype as well. That didn't help.
Ooh, yeah, we'll get to that. So starting right off at the quarterbacks, Watson with Goff. I know I was sort of torn between the two quarterbacks and who to go with on this one. I know I chose Goff because going against that Cincy defense, but Watson, Deshaun Watson, if anyone saw that eye poke play that he did,
Oh, yeah.
Gruden referred to him as the Michael Jordan of the NFL with the plays that he does. The guy is exceptional, and it just shows what type of talent he is. He had a great day, 3 passing TDs, 279 yards, 46 rushing yards. He gets it done with his legs too. So good day. But also Goff, no slouch himself, had a pretty decent day too, going over 370 passing yards and 2 passing TDs. Wide receivers, I know I was sort of skeptical on Galladay. I was wondering, if Stafford found a new friend with Marvin Jones Jr. and he didn't. He still went back to his boy. Galladay had 2 reception TDs, over 100 receiving yards and 6 receptions, and ultimately, outscoring Tate by, about roughly just less than 11 points. So Tate had a good day, but again, didn't have a 24.20 type of day. Wide receivers that I already mentioned, Jake, you had Westbrook going. Unfortunately, he got injured earlier in the week, around I think Wednesday or Thursday, and so they didn't even know if he was going to suit up, so they were really taking it easy with him. And then he hurt his neck or his shoulder,
something like that. Yeah.
Actually, I think it was combo.
It was both. Yeah. So he was out. He didn't have anything, but Landry had 9.33 points. Maybe if Landry has a bigger day, and then also maybe his running backs, maybe Quinto's team could have taken advantage of that egg you put up at that wide receiver 2 spot, but it just didn't happen. The running backs here, roughly 15, 16 combined points here for Quinto's running backs to your 15 points, pretty dead even as far as the combination. As we had said, with Kerryon Johnson going down on the IR, and then the Tyler Johnson McKissick story popping up, and then all of a sudden some guy out of left field was starting and getting most of the touches. Jake, I'm sure you weren't the only one that fell for that. A lot of other people did, as we mentioned. Dorf did as well too, benching Coleman for Johnson.
Yeah.
So again, even on the running back front, the tight ends, again, I know I took Old Man Olsen over Font because of Font's, history of dropping balls. It was pretty close, but he still outscored him by about 4 points. You got a little differential there, so Noah coming up with points for you on that. But the big one here, the flex position, Latavius Murray continues off. Onondaga, high school graduate, Latavius Murray. He is just making it known that he's still relevant. He hasn't, been given that prime time running back position. He's always come in as like a secondary running back, whether it was back in Minnesota, before that in Oakland, and now what he's doing in New Orleans, coming in for Kamara. But the guy has talent, and he's putting up big points, 102 rushing yards, 9 receptions, and a rushing TD. So tons of points there to Singletary for Don Juan, which 1 reception TD, couple catches, that he's got hands, he can utilize it, and out of your flex, you would expect to 13.9, almost 14 points. That's a solid day for a flex position, but 34 is a lot to overcome. That 20-point differential right there was significant. The kickers, I got lucky in this one. Remember, Minnesota was a Thursday night game, so I already had seen Bailey having 18 points, and I didn't think Greg the Leg was going to outscore that, so that was an easy one for me. This one on the defenses I got wrong, though. I know I took Chicago because of pride. I love my city, and I thought maybe they were going to, do something. But San Fran's D, who Grono, again, I'm going to remind you, Grono, you dropped San Fran willingly, went off. And
Thanks, buddy.
19 points, and as Keith has said, 19 points, anything over, I'd say around that in this type of league for the scoring that we have for defenses is huge. So San Fran putting up a lot of points there, and it came out for the positive for Jake and the negative for Quinto. Jake got the win here, goes to 4-4, and Quinto keeps his 12th position at the bottom, 2-6.
Yeah, think about it, Grono. If you kept them, you would have had 13 more points. Nope, you still would have lost.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
Oh.
I was trying to help you out. All right, so that rounds out the Week 8 standings and outcomes. And as far as predictions go, Keith is on fire, man. He's in first. He's 5 for 3 with predictions, 5 and 3. So 2 weeks ago he was 1 and 3. He's on a 4-0 hot streak.
What do you know?
And don't worry, guys, he will finish with a losing record. And then I'm in second with 3 and 5, and Nico's 2 and 6. So we need to get our shit together, Nico. What's going on?
I know. Sorry, I feel 2-0 coming this week for sure.
Nice. All right, that's the wrap up for week 8. Now let's go to power rankings.
Power rankings.
All right, so for power rankings, all of us will review our top 6, and then we'll go over the consensus 12-team power rankings for the league. And I'll start off, and I'm very similar. I might even be the exact same as last week as far as my top 6 goes. But I know you guys, as you'll see later on, you guys got on the Billy bandwagon with me, so that's good. But I had Billy number 1 for power rankings, and with Saquon in the lineup, his team is just he's just good. He's been winning, so until he doesn't win anymore, I'm gonna keep him in that number 1 spot. And KC Blue Jesus Chicken Wing, I have him number 2, and then after that I have Keith J-Mo Kiss the Baby number 4, Nico number 5, and Trick is 6. So I really think that all six of these teams could potentially be the playoffs. Obviously, I don't want that to be the case, but I could see that being a potential playoff. The one team that I think that can make a big move is Trickus.
Mm-hmm.
I just really think that he's got a good squad. He's got Julio, Lockett, and McCaffrey, and George Kittle. So I don't know.
Anybody would be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, anybody would be happy with just McCaffrey, but he's got Julio, Lockett. He's got a good squad, and more importantly, he's got a decent tight end, and that's huge for this league. And so I think he has the most potential, but that's pretty much the same. I think I had the same exact for week 8. I forget, but that's my top 6 for week 9.
Okay. I'll go next here. For my top 6, the top 4 literally reflect what we have in our league. Number 1, Juice is Loose, and followed by Casey Blue Jesus Chicken Wing. Both guys are 6 and 2. As I had mentioned, as far as moves going in this league, Billy has done the least. His team is solid since what he's drafted, and Casey's second right behind him, along with Trim with 9 moves. Both guys have the 1 and 2 least amount of points scored against them too, so they've been very fortunate. Every time they go into a heads-up match, teams aren't putting up that many points. With Billy having the least amount, and then Casey followed right behind him at number 2. So that obviously helps in that 6 and 2 route because they're also putting up points as well. 3, I have myself, Keith at 4. And then once we get to the 5th position, actually 1 through 5 are the same as our league. Where I differentiate is the number 6 position. I switched out Fryer Douglas and I put in Jake, your team. You're on a 2-win streak. Again, you as far as points go, you don't put up the most, but I look at again who's on the up and up. If you got a win streak going on, I feel like there's always some good juju followed by that. So that's why that's my rationale. I'm putting you on 6 and 7. If Trick has had that 2-win streak, and you guys have both had 2-win streaks, I'm sorry, then I would probably put Trickus right in front. But that's the rationale there. So 1 through 5 really is the same.
Without Devontae too, that helps.
Yeah. So I'll put you on there. But otherwise, that's how I have my top 6.
Nice.
Gotcha. Okay. Obviously, mine's going to be very similar to y'all's. I think it's a little different. Number 1, Juice is Loose. Good for you, Billy. Like you guys said, he's on a hot streak. Saquon's back. He's just got a well-rounded team, and he drafted well. Not making a lot of moves. He's just sticking to his guns there, and they're taking him to where he is right now. So, you look at the win streak, you look at the math, you look at his team, and he deservedly lands in the 1 spot for me. Number 2, I've Kissed the Baby. Reason I have number 2 is after playing him this week, just realizing his team is very, very well rounded as well. He's got solid players at every single position, and they can pop off. And when they pop off, you put up 130 points in this league, you pretty much beat everybody every week, and that's what he did to me. And his team has the potential to do that. That's why I have it number 2. Number 3, Blue Jesus, same thing, well-rounded team. And anytime you can play Mike Evans and DeAndre Hopkins together, that's awesome, especially when Mike Evans is playing like Mike Evans and he's getting the targets and yards and receptions that he can pull off. He just had a monster day, and he's having monster days, and Casey's team is having a monster year. So, kudos to him.
Monster.
4, monster. So much monsters. It is almost Halloween, so, makes sense. Number 4, I have myself. Still putting up a lot of points. My team's still performing well. I put as a note that I'm kind of on a downward trend this week, although I did score 121 points, which would also beat a lot of people in this league. So I'm not, obviously I don't like losing, but I'm still scoring highly at a consistent basis. So there's a reason to be optimistic there. Obviously my wide receivers are my bread and butter. We'll see what happens with Chargers firing their offensive coordinator, who's going to be calling the plays and how that's going to affect the offense. We're going to have to see. Number 5, I got you, Nikko Velazquez. Great team, just solid, stable. Really, your only weakness is at tight end, but that's everybody's weakness besides like 4 or 5 teams. So it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Everybody else is performing well for you, especially like I alluded to earlier. Pat's defense. We'll see what happens in Baltimore, but until they get exposed, you're firing them up every week, and they're getting you almost
easily.
20. Yeah,
easily.
So. Number 6, like you guys talked about earlier, I got Trickus' team, Friar Douglas, Christian McCaffrey, and he made a lot of moves and put a lot of good pieces on his team. There's a lot of potential for him, a lot of ways he can score a lot of points, and anytime you have a combination like that, it's easy to make the playoffs that way. So kudos for him for all the moves that he's made to put himself in that position. And that's my type 6 there.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, he'd be a scary team to face in the playoffs. So
yep, absolutely.
We'll see.
Playoffs.
We'll see what happens. But so those are our top 6 power rankings, and for the top 12 for the consensus power rankings, it's as follows. It's obviously the Juice is Loose, number 1. We all had him as the number 1. So obviously he's the first one. And then Blue Jesus Chicken Wing came in at number 2. Kiss the Baby, number 3. Crafts Rub Route, number 4. Seabass, number 5. Friar Douglas, number 6. And then the bottom 6 is J-Fed, Scary Terry, Sharknado, Sean Archer, Balls Deep All-Stars, Carpet Munchers, and Don Juan 08. Don Juan 08 on the bottom. I just want to let you know, Kinto, that I had you at 11. All right.
I wanted to.
Consensus had you at 12. All right, buddy.
I honestly thought about it too.
I did put you up there at 11 just because Carpet Munchers is – he doesn't have Mahomes and Kamara. His team does not look that good. So
it's tough.
No offense, Trim. It's not your fault. They're just hurt. You got the injury bug this year, and it sucks. It happens, unfortunately. But that is the power ranking. So now let's go on to the last segment, which is Week 9, current matchups and predictions.
Matchups and predictions.
All right, so let's get this party going. Keith, I think you got the first matchup.
Yep.
See if you can keep this streak going.
I don't know. It's gonna be tough. I'm gonna give it my best shot. So first matchup here, J-Fed versus Blue Jesus Chicken Wing. So right off the bat here, Yahoo has a split right down the middle, 50-50 as the lineups as they are right now. Jameis Winston going into Seattle, Tom Brady going into Baltimore. Neither matchup I would be excited about.
Yeah.
So I had that as a wash. They're both probably going to throw multiple touchdowns. Tom Brady in Baltimore, that game could get ugly. I mean, that could be like a ground and pound thing. I don't know. I can't really lean one side, so it's a wash there. Wide receivers, Kenny Galladay and Dede Westbrook versus DeAndre and Mike Evans. I got to go DeAndre and Mike Evans on that one. Galladay can have a day. He can put up numbers. We've seen it, but we've also seen where he can, depending on which way the game goes, Marvin Jones Jr. can eat, or Danny Amendola can eat. You just don't know. They're going to sling the ball out in Detroit, and you hope that Kenny's obviously the number one by far, but he's just not as consistent as a DeAndre Mike Evans duo there. So I give the nod there to Blue Jesus Chicken Wing. Running backs, Phillip Lindsay, Damian Williams. Damian Williams is playing against Minnesota. Phillip Lindsay versus Cleveland. Joe Flacco's done for the year. They're going to roll out a backup quarterback there, which tells me that they're going to lean even more on their running backs there, Royce and Phillip. Damian Williams doesn't touch the ball as much as Phillip anyways. So I give the slight nod to you, Jake, there with Phillip. Kenny Drake, Mark Ingram. Kenny Drake is an interesting prospect. I'm sure you're happy to start him in somewhere else that's not the Miami Dolphins backfield. It looks like their Arizona's backfield is really banged up there too. However, he is also playing San Francisco, which I'm not confident firing anybody up against that defense. They're playing just absolutely amazing. So we'll see. He might catch a lot of passes. He's going to end up on the field somehow, especially if all these people are hurt. But Baltimore already feeds Mark Ingram, especially in the red zone. So I just give the nod to Mark on that one. Tight ends, Jonnu Smith, Kyle Rudolph, just two tough tight ends to start. I mean, that's the state of the NFL this year, but those are boom or bust, and boom is 6 points. Yeah.
One catch, 1 yard, touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a wash there. Wide receivers, Devontae in LA, Emmanuel in Arizona. This, just like all of the other weeks before, if Devontae plays, it's an obvious nod to you, Jake. If he doesn't, I don't know what you do, because I don't think you have anybody you could put there. Mohamed Sanu, that's never fun to have to do that. Emmanuel Sanders gets traded to San Francisco, and what does he do? He comes in, gets 4 or 5 targets and a touchdown. So I would be happy with that if I was an Emmanuel Sanders owner. With that being said, I have to lean with Devontae if he plays. So for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to give the nod to Jake in that position. Defense, San Francisco in Arizona, Minnesota in Kansas City. You're never confident firing up any defense against Kansas City, especially in Kansas City. So I give the nod there to San Francisco, because also San Francisco is just playing wonderfully. Kyler Murray is mediocre at best right now, and his running backs are hurt. San Fran probably runs through Arizona as well this week. So I give the nod to you, Jake, in that regard. Overall, though, it looks like, even though I said earlier that I gave the nod to Devontae, I don't have any confidence that he's going to play this week. So good luck to you, Jake. And if he doesn't, I'm going to base my prediction off that. Also, Didi for you is not all the way healthy yet, so we'll see if he plays. All those questions taken into consideration, I give Blue Jesus Chicken Wing the nod here, and I think he's going to take the win. Sorry, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right, man. It's all right, buddy. I get it.
All right. So this next matchup here, I have two juggernauts going at it. We got first place versus fourth place. Anytime you got the top four going against each other, in this case, 1 versus 4, you obviously have people with winning records, guys who are putting up a lot of points. In this case, 2 very good teams. So thanks for giving me this matchup, Jake. This is great. Looking at the quarterback battle, Keith has Allen going, and like I said, Billy has Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is great. What we've seen him do.
Yeah.
I mean, again, as I had mentioned 2 weeks ago and 2 podcasts ago, I had mentioned that Aaron Rodgers really has 2 hands on this wheel of this offense now in Green Bay. We saw what he did against Kansas City's defense, which again, that secondary is no joke. They got the Honey Badger back there, and he honestly threw it up in the air a lot. Granted, some of those yards was screens, but he's still completing a lot of passes. So, long story short, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers getting the check mark on this one. Wide receivers, Keenan Allen and Juju. Mason Rudolph is back in Pittsburgh. We saw what he did Monday night. He is a competent quarterback. He can sit in the pocket. He can sling the rock, and he passes all around. Washington got in on that. Juju is getting in on it. So Juju Smith firing up at the wide receiver too. Keith, I like that. Paired with Keenan Allen in Green Bay, although Keenan Allen is still hurt here and there. But again, even against Washington or against Chicago's defense, he had a decent day. Allen Robinson and Godwin. I like Godwin. Allen Robinson is great. Trubisky throws to him, basically stares him down every single time. So he's guaranteed to get 9 to 10 targets a game. But for the wide receiver battle, this is pretty split down. I'm gonna go with Keith's pairing here, Keenan Allen, Juju Smith over Allen Robinson and Godwin. The running backs, let's see, Royce Freeman. As you'd mentioned, they're going to be firing up, what's his name, Drew Lock, right, the kid out of Missouri, as the quarterback in Denver. So we're going to see what he's all about. I mean, maybe he comes in, he's still able to spread the ball, just maybe even a little bit better than Flacco. But if that's not the case, and most likely not, I mean, first-time rookie getting the snap against, again, a Cleveland defense, I would assume they're going to take the pressure off of him, stay on the ground. Royce Freeman's part of that timeshare with Philip Lindsay in Denver, so I like Royce Freeman there. And then Saquon Barkley against Dallas D, which is no slouch, but Saquon Barkley is just a man.
Saquon's going to Saquon.
And then and going up against your 2 running backs, don't get me wrong, love Sony Michel, or as Jake calls him, Sony Michael, and Austin Eckler.
Did it once.
But
it sounded
I
weird.
I know. I like the tandem of Royce Freeman and Saquon there. So the pairing of wide receivers goes to Keith, but the pairing of the running backs goes to Bill. The tight end, Hunter Henry versus Zach Ertz, 2 solid tight ends. I like Hunter Henry. Philip Rivers loves to go to his big tight end there. We've always known his history with tight ends, especially Antonio Gates. He likes to go to his tight ends, and Hunter Henry is basically another Antonio Gates, just a big guy, hauls down everything. I like the tight end check mark there. For the flexes, Adam Thielen. I like, even though Kirk Cousins had a quiet week last week because he was coming off 30 and 40 point performances. He had a quiet week last week. I think he's going to redeem himself against Kansas City. And I think he's going to have a pretty good day, and Thielen's going to be a big part of that. Kickers are a wash here, and defenses, Philly against Chicago, Jacksonville against Houston. I'm going to go with Philly. I know that Chicago offense is awful. I've watched every single game, sadly. I've seen that they don't put up points. They will sometimes go heavy on the pass and neglect the run. Then they'll stay with the run, but even if they do the run, they don't score points. So I like Philly's defense against Chicago, absolutely. Overall, I believe the check mark is going to go to the juice is loose. Sorry, Keith. I think Billy's going to continue this 6-2. He's going to continue his win streak, get to 7-2. And I think the big part of that's going to be Saquon having a big day and Aaron Rodgers having a ridiculous day. I think that's going to be a big part of it.
Yep, I gotta hope those guys come back down to earth, but we'll see.
There you go. All right, so third prediction is Seabass against Scary Terry Charknado. So this is also a good matchup. Some good teams are facing each other this week, so it's going to be good for the next week's podcast. We'll see how it all shakes up. But so we got Nikko against Dorf. Nikko's in third. Dorf is only one game behind him. He's in eighth, so he could it could be a 1-game, 2-game swing here. They could both have the same record after this if Dorf pulls off the win. But as far as quarterbacks go, Carson Wentz for Nikko against Chicago, and then Matt Stafford against the Raiders. And I am actually going to give the nod to Dorf on this one. I'm going to give it to Stafford. They are, especially with their running back situation, they're already a pass-first team anyways. So, and then Carson Wentz, don't really know with Philly right now, and they're going against Chicago's D. So I'm going to give the nod to Matt Stafford on that one. It shouldn't be overwhelming, but I give him a slight nod. And then as far as wide receivers go, we for Nikko, he's got Julian Edelman and Odell Beckham against Stephon Diggs and Chark Jr. Dorf's actually playing in this week, so that's good. And this, I'm actually going to give a wash for both matchups here. Stephon Diggs, he's been hot the past few weeks. He cried like a little baby, and then they started throwing him the ball, and he's been over 140 plus yards the last 3 weeks, 7 catches. He had 3 touchdowns a few weeks ago. So Kirk Cousins has been throwing him to him, and it's been working out. And then Julian Edelman, I love Julian Edelman, and I think he gets 11 targets a game. Mm-hmm. That's insane. So obviously Tom Brady loves him as well. He's going to continue to do the same against Baltimore. So I do think both of them have very high ceilings. They're both on fire, so I'm going to put that a wash. And then Chark Jr. against Odell. I really do not like Odell, and I do not like Baker Mayfield. So no, I think that obviously he's good. We all know he's great. He's a top wide receiver, but I think Chark could actually, keep pace with him this week. He's not a bad player. He had a 17.27 points last week, so I think that's a wash as well. But when we go to the running backs, there's an advantage for Nico's team here. He's got Chris Carson going against Tampa Bay, and then James Conner against the Colts, and Dorf has Carlos Hyde against Jacksonville, and then Coleman against Arizona. I do think Coleman has a lot of potential, and maybe he carries, hit the two of them against Nico's 2 running backs. But overall, I'm going to give the nod to Nico for running backs as of right now. Chris Carson and James Conner, I just think overall more consistent than, especially Carlos Hyde. You never know what's going to happen with him.
What's the consensus on Conner's health right now?
They rested him on practice this week, but everything's pointing to him playing.
Okay. I know he had like an AC joint.
Joint sprain.
Right. Yeah.
They thought it was a broken clavicle and he was going to be gone for the season.
It says they have to – it's all about what happens Friday's practice, so they'll know by Friday.
Okay.
But he's just pretty much not practicing this week, but he should be good. I would think he's going to play. Mm-hmm. But and then as far as tight ends, I do think that Dorf has an advantage here. He's got Waller going against the Lions, and then you have Ebron. You never really know with Ebron, and obviously Brissett can have off days. and Ebron's touchdown dependent. He gets a touchdown, he gets he gets double-digit points. Doesn't get a touchdown, he's going to have 1-2 catches, for 20, 30 yards. But Waller, he has his ceiling is higher, and he gets targeted way more for the Raiders, and he has his floor is higher as well. So I'm just going to go Waller. I think that's an easy pick. And then for flex, Tyreek Hill against Jamal Williams. This is tough to decide because Williams and the Packers have been hot lately, and Williams does get catches. Sometimes he doesn't get as many rushes as Jones, but he actually had a rushing touchdown last week, I think, and he had a receiving touchdown on that crazy pass from Rodgers, the magician. But I'm gonna go with Tyreek Hill though. I just think that his ceiling is so high, and he could have 40 points. You never know. So I'm just gonna go with Tyreek on this one. Kickers are a wash, and then defense. This was tough to kind of predict because obviously New England's been hot, but they're going against Baltimore, who has the second best rushing or offense in the league as far as yards per game, against New England, who has the second best defense against yards per game. So it's going to be a huge game. But then you have Buffalo going against the Redskins. So I'm actually going to go with Buffalo this week, just strictly on matchup and the fact that this is New England's first test, so it's just a question mark. Obviously, they're good.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they're legit and they come out and they dominate the Ravens.
I'm fairly certain that the Redskins are also rolling out Dwayne Haskins this week.
Yeah.
So
strictly matchup. If the Buffalo wasn't playing the Redskins, I probably wouldn't pick them. But because they're playing well, actually, that's not true. If they're playing the Dolphins or the
Bengals,
Jets,
I would pick them or the Jets, right? So there's a 4 or 5 teams, and here they just happen to be playing one of them this week. So
yeah,
great,
exactly.
My luck.
Yeah. So I have the defense for Dorf. So overall, unless something big happens with the running back and Adele actually stops being a jabron, then I got the check mark for Dorf. I got Dorf winning this week.
Scary Terry.
All 3 of us picked the other team. None of us picked each other.
We all hate each other.
We all hate each other. Well, at least the truth is out.
Oh man! All right, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay. So I got the next matchup here. Balls Deep All-Stars versus Don Juan 08. Yahoo has the Balls Deep All-Stars 60-40 chance to win 116 over 105. Let's get right into it here. Quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers home versus Green Bay, Deshaun in Jacksonville. Like I mentioned earlier, I have no idea who's going to be calling the plays in LA. I imagine Phillip is still going to be Phillip. They probably aren't going to change much, but there's got something happen where they got rid of Ken Wisenhunt, and it's got to be because they want to go in some kind of different direction. So we'll see what that direction is. Deshaun Watson, we watched what he can do. Dude's just a freak athlete. That being said, he's in Jacksonville. That's a tough matchup. They don't have Jalen Ramsey anymore. I give the nod there to Deshaun Watson. Moving on to wide receivers. Now so it's T.Y. Hilton and David Moore versus Golden Tate and Jarvis Landry. Not a single one of those wide receivers instantly pops out to me. They each could have a great day. They each could have a mediocre day. There isn't a matchup that I really like for any of them. T.Y. is in Pitt. Golden Tate's playing Dallas Monday night. David Moore is playing Tennessee. And Jarvis is in Denver. None of them have a favorable matchup. The whole wide receiver game here for me is just a giant wash. I can't really pick one and say that it's obvious that they're going to do better than any one other wide receiver there. So giant wash there. Moving on to running backs, Dalvin Cook versus Matt Breida. That's obvious. Dalvin Cook is he's the best running back in the league.
Yes.
At this point.
Christian McCaffrey is the best.
I think Dalvin still has more fantasy points than him at this point. I could be wrong though.
Give me Dalvin over Christian McCaffrey.
Yes. Coupled with the wide receivers that they have in Minnesota, Dalvin just sees less 8-man boxes than Christian does. So either way, you're not taking Matt Breida in that matchup.
No way.
Leonard Fournette.
Yes.
Leonard Fournette. Home versus Houston. Also to be noted, a J.J. Watt less Houston defense right now. And Nick Chubb going into Denver. Take Leonard Fournette there. Chubb is a solid running back. He's a good athlete, but Leonard Fournette is going up against he's home versus a hurt defensive line, and that dude gets 25, 30 touches a game. So that's the running back. Both of them getting a nod for balls deep there. Tight ends, Vance McDonald for Grono, Greg Olsen for Don. Gave a slight nod to Greg. He just seems to get more targets than Vance McDonald does. Vance is just another one of those boom or bust guys. Greg Olsen is a little bit more part of that offense than Vance is. Flex position, Devin Singletary, home against the Redskins. Kenny Stills in Jacksonville. Kenny Stills can have a great game, or like what happened last week, he also can't. It all depends on if Deshaun finds him or not. He doesn't have the target share that like a DeAndre Hopkins does, obviously. So that being said, Devin Singletary, they're sprinkling him back into the offense. He's in there on third down. He's still getting out-touched by Frank Gore, but they're mixing him in more. I like the matchup versus Washington. He's probably going to get a little bit more touches than last week, especially if they get up early. So I like Devin Singletary in that position. Kickers, Wash, and then as far as defensive goes, Indianapolis in Pittsburgh, Chicago in Philly. That's tough. Chicago's defense hasn't been playing amazingly as of recent. I'm going to have to go Wash there too. Overall, I think Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette outperform Don's team enough to give balls deep all-stars the win there, and I'm going to give them the dub.
All right. Okay. Just to let you know, overall, Christian McCaffrey has an 8 ranking, and Dalvin Cook is 15. So, there you go.
Lies.
Just look it up, dude.
Fake. All right, so we'll jump to the next matchup here. Carpet Munchers versus Sean Archer. B-Rad versus Joe. Two bottom feeders here, 10th and 11th, going up against each other. As we had mentioned, Brad's on I believe it's a 7-game losing streak, and that's not bad managerial moves at all. It's just he's just had some really, really bad luck, and I think we can all agree on that. He's got a couple empty spaces here, or just one actually, the wide receiver position. He has Tyler Boyd, who's on a bye. I would assume he's going to put Amari Cooper in there, and Amari Cooper's projected for 14.92 points. So we'll start with the wide receiver battle since I'm hitting on that right now. I'm assuming he'll probably keep Alshon Jeffrey there at the wide receiver 2, going up against right now who Joe has in there, Robbie Anderson and Tyrell Williams. I'm gonna, just based off of that, I'm gonna go with Amari Cooper and Alshon Jeffrey. I think the Bears secondary is probably, even Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller. I've watched that defense under a microscope, and their secondary is the softest part of that defense. So I think Alshon Jeffrey is going to have a day, especially he loves playing against Chicago. It's his former team. We drafted him, and he loves beating Chicago. Amari Cooper is coming off a bye, I believe, last week, right? Dallas is on bye, so he's rested. I think he's going to come out, have a good game, and again, he loves. It's a rivalry against New York Giants, so he's going to have a good game. So the wide receiver battle is going to go right off to B-Rad. As far as the quarterbacks go, Lamar Jackson against New England's defense. Bill Belichick is a genius when it comes to scheming for a quarterback, scheming for a young quarterback, and especially a mobile quarterback. I think he knows darn well going into this game, Lamar Jackson has rushed over 100 yards very freely and willingly in a lot of his games. I think he's going to take that away from Lamar Jackson and put him as a prime. Just have him sit in the pocket. He's going to QB spy him. He's going to do whatever to keep him immobile. So we're going to see what type of Lamar Jackson shows up. If Lamar Jackson's going to have a good day sitting in the pocket and tossing, or if he's going to have a really tough go of it. With that said, I'm going to give the check mark to Minshew, the quarterback for Brad. I think Lamar Jackson's going to get real frustrated in this game against New England, but that's my opinion. We'll see if I'm right or wrong there. For the running backs, Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott. For Joe, he does have James White from New England on his bench. He could possibly plop him in because he's projected a little bit more in that RB1 position. I'm just going to go off of what he has right now as Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott going against David Montgomery and R. Jones for Trim. He does have Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson on his bench. Thompson hasn't seen the field since week 6 with turf toe. He's also battling turf toe like Devontae Adams. Adrian Peterson could be plopped in there against a Buffalo's defense, but I wouldn't, even if that was the case, I'm still going Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott. He could put Adrian Peterson or leave Ronald Jones the second in there, but David Montgomery I think they're going to make Trubisky try to throw the ball. Philly's going to make Trubisky try to throw the ball. They're going to take the run away. So I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon and Ezekiel Elliott for the running backs. The tight end, Travis Kelce. I know Jimmy Graham is an athlete. I know he's on a Green Bay team that Aaron Rodgers can toss it, but you cannot not pick Travis Kelce. So that's an easy one. The flex, Josh Jacobs going against Detroit, or Larry Fitz going against San Francisco. I'm staying away from the San Francisco defense. Don't want any part of that. Joshua Jacobs. Kickers are a wash. Defense, the Jets going against Miami, and Tennessee going against Carolina. I don't like any defense having to go against Christian McCaffrey. It's at Carolina. It's going to be, according to the forecast, it's going to be sunny with a high of 58 degrees, so no rain, no snow. So I think Christian McCaffrey could have a very, very good day against the Tennessee defense. New York Jets against Miami. It's forecasted to be wet and rainy in Miami. Wow, surprise, surprise. I like the Jets defense on here. So overall, I think Sean Archer is going to pull away with the win on this one. I think, unfortunately, Trim's losing streak is going to continue to 8 in a row, and I think mainly because Ezekiel Elliott's going to have a big day, and Kelsey's going to have a big day, and that New York Jets defense is going to be able to contain Miami.
All right. So you picked Basil. Got it. All right. So for the last matchup, we have Friar Douglas against Kiss the Baby. So this is a 5 against a 6. So this is another important matchup. So Jimmy is 5-3, and Trickus is right there. He's 4-4. Yahoo has 125, 122, a little bit favoring Trickus right now. And let's start off with the quarterback. So for Jimmy, he's got Russell Wilson, and then Trickus has Kirk Cousins. So I love both the quarterbacks. Seattle's home; they're playing Tampa Bay, and Minnesota is playing Kansas City. So I do like I really do like both quarterbacks, but I'm going to have to go with Russell Wilson. He's just been on fire all year long, and I know Kirk Cousins has been killing it. The past few weeks. Last week he didn't throw any touchdowns against Washington, and that kind of stinks for him as far as a fantasy owner. But I'm going to give the slight nod to Russell Wilson. And for wide receivers, Jimmy's got Conley. I think you just picked him up, Conley for Jacksonville. And then he has also got Danny Amendola. So let's check. Does he have players on buys? Yeah, Cooper Kupp has a buy, and that's his main wide receiver. And then he could switch out if he wants for Brown for Baltimore or Mike Williams for the Chargers. I guess he could switch them out if he wanted to. But right now, he's got Conley and Amendola in there against Lockett and Kirk. I am going to give, for the wide receivers, the nod to Trickus on this, specifically Tyler Lockett. I think he's just a game changer compared to the other two. Russell Wilson's favorite guy. Christian Kirk has a tough matchup though. He's playing obviously San Fran, so who knows if they'll even get time to throw him the ball. But I still think that he could outperform Conley. And Amendola, you don't know who Stafford's going to throw to. So he could throw to the last two games. He had 8 targets and 11 targets, and then the games before that he had 1 target and 0 targets. So never know Danny Amendola, and especially the Lions. But slight nod to Trickus there. And then for running backs, this is going to be a good matchup. Jimmy's got Le'Veon Bell and Aaron Jones, and then Trickus has McCaffrey and Mack. We all know how Aaron Jones can do, and Le'Veon Bell is playing the Dolphins this week. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's a stud, and Marlon Mack is a great running back too to have. But with him, you don't know either. Sometimes he could have, as low as 3.9, so I guess that's his floor. But he could also get into high teens, maybe into the 20s. He's going against Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's on a little bit of a roll right now, so that should be a good game. And then Aaron Jones is playing the Chargers, so I think that's probably going to be high scoring. The Chargers always play up to their opponent, and their opponent is offense. So they're probably going to score a lot. So I think that I'm actually going to give this a wash. I know he's got Christian McCaffrey, but just because Le'Veon Bell is playing Miami, I think I'm gonna wash out the running backs. And then for tight ends, Jimmy's got Ingram and against George Kittle against Arizona, and Ingram against Dallas, Monday night game. So it's tough here because I do love Ingram, and he is playing Dallas, rival game, but they're playing the Cardinals, and I really think Kittle's gonna outperform this week. I'm going to give the slight nod to Kittle, not saying that Ingram's going to do bad. I think he can get his projection and maybe a little bit more, but I also think Kittle can get his projection a little bit more. So I'm going to give the nod to Kittle there. And then as far as flex, we got Derrick Henry for Jimmy against Sutton. Cortland Sutton for Trickus. Obviously, he has a new QB coming into town, going against the Browns, and we have, like Nikko said earlier, we don't know. Maybe he comes in and he starts slinging, or maybe they, like Keith said, they just play off of Lindsey and Freeman for the whole game. So who knows what's going to happen for Sutton. I'm going to give the nod because of that question mark to Derrick Henry over in the flex position. And then for kickers, we have Mason Crosby, Robbie Gould. I'm going to wash that out. And then we have Seattle and Dallas. And I'm going to give that a wash as well. So overall, I am actually going to give the nod to Jimmy this week. I'm going to say Jimmy takes down Trickus, and the main reason is Jimmy has Russell Wilson and Trickus has Tyler Lockett. So if Lockett goes off, that means Wilson's got to be doing good. So because of that kind of wash combo he has going on there, Lockett being his number one wide receiver, I think that kind of washes out that wide receiver difference, and I'm going to give the nod to Jimmy here.
Yep. All right. Just a quick note in that tight end matchup. Arizona is literally the worst defense against tight ends
Right.
statistically.
Yeah.
So I give the nod to Kittle, even though obviously I love Ingram, but
I know it.
I have to give the nod to Kittle.
Yeah.
Because you never know, though. Ingram, Giants, Cowboys.
That's gonna be a fun game to watch.
It's
It's gonna
definitely
be
Oh,
gonna be
yeah.
a good game, and Giants always play decent against the Cowboys. Usually they beat us in the last
right?
second on a
It's
field goal.
in New York. Yep.
That's usually how the Cowboys beat us.
Yeah.
But,
So, in summation here, the winners predicted. I have predicted Blue Jesus Chicken Wing and Balls Deep.
yep.
Nico's got the Juices Loose and Sean Archer. And Jake, you have picked Scary Terry Sharknado and Kiss the Baby as this week's winners. Good luck to everyone. Hopefully my win streak continues.
Yeah, I wish you the best, buddy. But anything to add before we get going, boys? Wrap this week up.
Got nothing.
No, I'm really just hopeful. There's a lot going on in the NFL, a lot of trades happening, a lot of injuries. There's a lot that could go right and go wrong
Yep.
for a lot of people and a lot of teams. It's starting to get really fun.
It's a huge week. 4 weeks left. This week, is big. There's a lot of good matchups, and could shake up a few things here. So, with that being said, enjoy your week, boys. I'll talk to you soon. Adios.
Peace.
See ya.